is happening, gang? It's your boy Retro back again with another reaction video. Yeah. Today we got another huge update. Now you guys can probably already tell that it is going down. Just by that title alone, you guys are definitely going to want to check this one out. So we got that independent journalist Nick Shirley absolutely putting a CNN reporter in their place after attempting to discredit his discovery of Somali fraud throughout the state of Minnesota, guys. I'm excited to get into this one, so we're not straight into it. All I ask that you please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Without further ado, hop straight into it, folks. Check this one out.
I mean, they would say, look, these fraud cases have been going on, but they've already done like 80 indictments. The cases have been going on, for years.
And why did I show up one day in Minnesota and go to all these daycares, no children? They're receiving millions of dollars. We uncovered nearly $110 million in fraud in one day.
How do you know that all the allegations that you're making are true?
How do I know that they're true? Well, we showed you guys what was happening, and then you guys can go ahead and make your own analysis.
We're coming so we can make our own analysis. Are you 100% sure you're true?
Yeah, I am 100% sure I'm true.
CNN is looking into Shirley's claims.
Hi, my name's Whitney Wild. I'm a correspondent for CNN.
We reached out to several of the daycares featured in the now viral video. Only one daycare facility answered and said they are a legitimate business.
Have you seen the videos, purporting that some of these daycares don't have kids inside?
Minnesota Republicans say despite the new focus from the Trump administration, they have been sounding the alarm on fraud for years.
All right, folks, talk about an absolutely embarrassing moment as CNN attempts to discredit Nick Shirley, but they failed miserably. It's because all the facts and the evidence show that there was a fraud, and these folks that say they've been, conducting oversight for years, looking into it and investigating this are flat out lying, because we could see that if Nick Shirley could go out there in one day and uncover over $110 million in Medicaid fraud, then folks clearly weren't doing their jobs and we're sick of it. Oh, and by the way, President Donald Trump, he's done messing around now. When it comes to Minnesota, things have to change.
President Trump says it's time to send the illegal Somalis back home. On Truth Social today, Trump said up to 90% of fraud in Minnesota is caused by Somalis. He slammed, quote, ungrateful loser Ilhan Omar, saying she's one of the many scammers, and even questioned if she married her brother. It comes as DHS is saying they will look to denaturalize some Somalis who obtained their citizenship fraudulently. House Majority Whip Tom Emmer has said he wants anyone connected with the fraud to be deported.
Now that right there is exactly what I believe we all voted for. President Donald Trump once again showing us that he is a true leader that will step in, handle business when things have gotten out of control, which they clearly have in the state of Minnesota. And following Trump's latest frustrations on social media, we had our lovely White House press secretary Caroline Leavitt announcing what's the next move for Tim Walz's state of Minnesota. Check this out.
Human Services Department has also announced we are cutting off all child care funding to the state of Minnesota until we get to the bottom of this fraud. The Department of Labor is investigating their unemployment insurance program. The Department of USDA Agriculture Secretary Rollins weeks ago sent a letter to Governor Walz demanding he turn over every single name of SNAP recipients on the books in Minnesota. And the Minnesota Attorney General actually sued the Trump administration for that. What are they hiding? Our entire administration is working around the clock to get to the bottom of it, and President Trump is not going to let Governor Walz off the hook.
It really brings me joy to see that the Trump administration is taking this thing just as personal as the residents of Minnesota, who have been constantly ripped off for the last 7 years by the Somali fraudsters, while the folks that are supposed to be leaders sat back and turned a blind eye. And this reminds me of what happened with Ilhan Omar. That's why I say that these Minnesota leaders aren't making their case any better by continuously screaming and hollering in order to try to cover this whole thing up. This is the same response we got from Ilhan Omar when Elon Musk's Doge sniffed out the fraud in USAID and stripped them of all of their funding. This is a deja vu moment.
It is really, really a sad day in America. We are witnessing a constitutional crisis. We talked about Trump wanting to be a dictator on day one, and here we are. This is what the beginning of dictatorship looks like. When you gut the Constitution and you install yourself as the sole power, that is how dictators are made.
In these cases, you do not need a professional fraud investigator to pinpoint exactly who's innocent and who's guilty in these cases. All you have to do is pay attention to who is screaming and hollering the most or the loudest. And that Representative Ilhan Omar's response to this widespread fraud has been very telling since Jump Street, and now Republicans in Congress are looking into how her net worth magically, mysteriously skyrocketed during the same window of the Somali fraud.
This is one of the other things that we need to address is the extent to which members of Congress find themselves getting wealthy while they're in Congress. In this case, it appears by being completely in bed with all of the fraudulent activity that's going on in Minnesota. Of course, we should investigate this. Of course, should we look into what they're scrubbing from their website. I think we've got to explore this as far as we can, including potentially looking into denaturalizing and removing Ilhan Omar if she's violated our laws. And by the way, we should also ban stock trading among members of Congress, since we're talking about the wealth of Congress, and I have a bill to do that, and I hope we will do that next year. Mike Johnson, the Speaker, is working with us to do that. We've got to stop all of this flow of dollars that is corrupting our system, empower the American people to do what they do best, and we've got to pause immigration.
I bet that Ilhan Omar thought she was just this close to getting away with it, getting off the hook without being held accountable for her actions, but we can now see that this is just the beginning of her legal troubles. And I've got even more good news to cover while we're on the topic of that Ilhan Omar, as it looks like Republicans are now getting serious about her expulsion.
Folks, now is the time to expel Ilhan Omar from the U.S. House of Representatives because of this shocking Somali daycare center case that we are all just learning about. So what are the questions that we should be asking now? First off, we need to start holding people like Ilhan Omar accountable. We need to be asking the question, what did she know? When did she know it? And how did she cover it up? We cannot continue to let people like her, criminals like her, continue to game the system. Her community and herself have made millions of dollars off the taxpayers. And President Trump needs America First fighters on Capitol Hill to expose this corruption. Because under our Constitution, under Article 1, Section 5, Clause 2, the House can expel members. Now, currently in the U.S. House, who do you trust to prosecute that case against Ilhan Omar? Because holding people like her accountable who are taking advantage of American taxpayers, all while they hate America, is the number one thing that we need to send U.S. representatives there to do. We as a MAGA movement need to understand what time it is. We can't just send anybody, any loudmouth to Capitol Hill. We need people with a skill set, a demonstrated skill set over time that shows they can hold people accountable, in particular criminals like Ilhan Omar accountable, and make sure she is expelled from the U.S. House of Representatives. Do you know the last time a Democrat was expelled from the U.S. House of Representatives? It was 2002.
Now, last time I checked, we voted for these trends to change, so it's time for bad actors and these so-called representatives who are taking advantage of getting rich off their public servant seat to finally be held accountable. And I want to get ahead of Ilhan Omar on this one before she even begins to start claiming that this is a racial issue and she's being targeted based off her skin color. Let's just clear the air. This is a fraud issue and there's evidence to prove so.
There are videos, there are surveillance videos of people actually exchanging hands, exchanging money with parents that are pretending to bring their kids to these leaning centers. I love that one with the typo on that learning center. And then taking their kids away and people collecting money on it. I can't understand what ethnicity has to do with that. That's just fraud.
Well, Julie, it has nothing to do with it's smoke and mirrors. This is all a distraction from what the real problem is here. This has nothing to do with race, has nothing to do with ethnicity. We have to, under President Trump's leadership, American people are first. Our country is first. Has nothing to do with the Somalis, but it has everything to do with criminal activity. Our job, when we get appointed, elected, our job is to uphold the law. And so that's what you see going on right now. And there's a lot of people in our country, the clip that you showed, some of the media, far left activists that actually do not want the laws of America to be upheld. But this is a day with President Trump and other leaders in our administration where we're going to uphold the law, enforce the law, and prioritize the American people and American people only.
Americans are fed up. We're tired of seeing these crooks being able to come into our country and take advantage of not only America's taxpayers, but American systems as well. The folks in leadership better gear up and have some very good alibis in that state of Minnesota, because that race card that Ilhan Omar has been trying to play is not going to work in the court of law. They better come with some receipts and some very good explanations for where the cash has been going. And take a look here. Our friend Nick Shirley, who has done a fantastic job of documenting these fraud centers, is back on the streets. He's not done yet. He's just found even more fraud in the state of Minnesota. You guys have to look at this before we get out of here.
Here in Minnesota, blatant fraud is taking place within the government and the Somalian population. Right here, you see a daycare center. It says it's Creative Minds Daycare. Creative Minds Daycare was actually shut down and was reopened the next day underneath the name Super Kids. And just in the past year, in 2025, this daycare alone has received $2.45 million. It's rumored here that some of these daycares and these other businesses that are committing fraud have been rumored to be giving money back to terrorist groups in Somalia. There's a 35% chance on Polymarket right now that those people who helped defraud the government will be deported back to Somalia. But this daycare alone received over $2.45 million. So maybe if you want to become a millionaire here in the United States, you should open up a daycare center and receive government funding from a governor like Tim Walz here inside the state of Minnesota, because these people are making $2.45 million. And right now you have a BMW, Range Rover, BMW, and a van outside of this daycare center here in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Now, this is the type of journalism that we really love to see. Nick Shirley is on a chase to catch them all. Might have to start calling this guy Nick Catcher, the way that he does not mess around when it comes to sniffing out these Somali fraudsters that are taking advantage of Medicaid benefits in the state of Minnesota. And now things are getting very serious with HHS stepping in and saying they're going to take care of all the bad actors who facilitated this fraud.
Hello, I'm HHS Deputy Secretary Jim O'Neill. I'm here with Assistant Secretary Alex Adams. Alex oversees the Administration for Children and Families. Intrepid journalists have made shocking and credible allegations of extensive fraud in Minnesota's child care programs. We believe the state of Minnesota has allowed scammers and fake daycares to siphon millions of taxpayer dollars over the past decade.
My office, ACF, provides Minnesota $185 million in child care funds each year. That money should be helping 19,000 American children, including toddlers and infants. Any dollar stolen by fraudsters is stolen from those children. Yesterday, I spoke directly with the director of the Minnesota Child Care Services Office. She could not tell me with confidence whether those allegations of fraud are isolated or whether there's fraud stretching statewide.
Today, we have taken 3 direct actions against the blatant fraud that seems to be rampant in Minnesota. First, I have activated our Defend the Spend system for all ACF child care payments across America. Starting today, we require a justification, receipt, or photo evidence before we make a payment. Second, I have just signed and sent a demand letter to Governor Walz. I required a full 360 review of these centers. This includes attendance records, licenses, complaints, investigations, and inspections.
And third, we've launched a dedicated fraud reporting hotline and email address at childcare.gov. Whether you're a parent, a provider, a member of the public, we want to hear from you. Let me be crystal clear. ACF expects every state to uphold the highest standards of oversight, monitoring, and accountability for federal dollars. Minnesota is no exception.
We're committed to holding bad actors accountable. Regardless of rank or office, anyone who's involved in perpetrating this fraud against the American people should expect to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law.
Yo, there we have it, guys. Oh my goodness. Talk about an absolute masterclass on how to handle these smug CNN reporters. Independent journalist Nick Shirley absolutely put that CNN reporter in her place when she attempted to discredit all of his findings on the Somali fraud and these child care centers or so-called child care facilities throughout his state of Minnesota. And I think the icing on the cake in that clip was when the CNN reporter tried to reach out to these so-called child care facilities, and she only got an answer from one daycare center, and all they said was they're not fraud. Okay, I'm just going to take their word from it for it. I'm not going to go out and do the Nick Shirley method by knocking on these doors and seeing if I even hear or see any kids inside. There's usually no cars in the parking lot, which shows you that there is fraud. But again, CNN, they do not know what real journalism is anymore. And it shows. And on behalf of leaders in Minnesota like Tim Walz, Ilhan Omar, and that Keith Ellison, and he is definitely on them, as we can see that not only is the Trump administration taking this thing very seriously, but also federal officials and HHS is stepping in. They're demanding all the receipts as to where this money has been going. This is the first step in following the money to see exactly who was participating and partaking in these fraudulent activities. This is going to be a great show, very entertaining to watch as we watch this all unfold in the state of Minnesota. I'm telling you right now, it's all coming crashing down. We'll continue to cover any updates to come right here with your boy RetroStef, guys, but definitely hop in that comment section. Comments are open, and I'm excited to hear what you guys are thinking about this one right here. I mean, that one put a smile on my face. Anytime we see CNN absolutely getting owned, I'm definitely smiling, chinning and grinning from ear to ear. So definitely hop in that comment section. Let me know how that one made you guys feel. I also want to give a huge shout out to all the folks who made it this far in the video. It really does a lot. It really helps the channel out, helps our community out, and gets the message further and further out there so more folks can learn about the truth. So much love to all you folks out there that made it this far in the video. But before you go, all I ask that you guys please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you'd enjoy more content like this from your boy RetroStef, I'll catch you guys on the next week.